Serious crimes say they can only behave as they do by blocking out all thoughts about their victims. If only it was as easy for victims to blank out things they'd like to forget. In our next case, two men looking for quick money traumatised the lives of others and, maybe accidentally, almost killed someone. This is Spencer's Wood, 4 miles outside Reading in Berkshire.
Good morning, Sheila. Good morning, Tony.
Morning,
Anything
Peggy.
exciting to report?
No, nothing. Just putting the Christmas cards out.
Well, I'll leave you to it.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
I'll put
Yes,
these out.
bye-bye.
Okay, then. I'll come give you a hand. There's an awful lot to be picked up already, huh?
We've lived in Spencer's Wood for the past 22 years. It has a real village feel to it. And because we've been here so long, we know everyone and everyone knows
Yes, I
us.
did want to go and do some Christmas shopping. I haven't done anything. I haven't got anything.
Back in mid-November, a villager may have seen the robbery being planned.
I work at the bakery in Spencer's Wood, about 4 doors down the road from the post office. I was leaving work about 9:30 in the morning, and I noticed across the road there was a white car parked in the industrial estate. Normally people would park on the side of the road, not in the industrial park, so that sort of caught my attention.
The following week, 3 days before the robbery, but 40 miles away in Twickenham, West London.
I thought I'd go out for a breath of fresh air, and whilst out there I decided to check my car was locked okay, and saw a couple of guys walking along the street that looked unfamiliar and a bit suspicious as well. Well, I was in two minds as to whether or not I should actually report them to the police. And when I got indoors, I just thought I'd give them a ring.
Before police arrived, this student, a Frenchman, went to get his car from the college car park where the two men had been seen.
Make a sound and I'll kill you.
£347.50p.
Next day, now 2 days before the robbery.
Oh, I'll go. Can I help you?
Well, I don't know what it was about him, but I felt something wasn't quite right.
I can only cash 2 of these. The other 2 you'll have to cash at your local post office.
Okay, that's all right.
£34.90.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was something about him that made me feel rather uneasy.
Now the robbery itself, late Thursday afternoon in the last week of November.
I'm off to Reading now to do my late-night Christmas shopping.
OK. You going to be long?
No, shouldn't be too long.
OK.
See you later.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Give me the money!
I would have been absolutely horrified if I'd realised what was going on. I felt very guilty when I got home that I hadn't been home to support him.
Is that everything?
Yeah, that's everything.
I was going to the post office to buy some stamps for my Christmas cards. And after seeing 2 men coming out carrying a sawn-off shotgun, I was extremely worried what I was going to find in the post office. Oh, my God, are you all right?
Yeah, yes, there's been a robbery at Spencerwood Post Office.
I've got the registration number.
Oh, well done. The car registration number is MJD 522X. Yeah. 2 men, one of them armed.
Within 3/4 of an hour, and just 3/4 of a mile away, the car was found abandoned on a farm track. The offside front had been damaged in the 3 days since the BMW had been stolen.
It was much later that I found out the shotgun had been fired, and I suddenly realised that the pellets must have missed me by a couple of inches. I was very shaken.
They're both slim.
It's just such a shame that we've been here all these years, and this should happen just as we're about to retire.
Adrian Bex, we do at least have artist impressions of both of the attackers, and they seem to be fairly similar in appearance.
They are. The gunman is a man aged in his late 20s, early 30s, slim build. He had an unusual black leather jacket with a graphical design of some sort covering the whole of the back.
Some Chinese-looking design by the looks of it. The other man, the one in the brown jacket?
Very similar description. The only difference between him and the gunman, he had some facial stubble.
The car itself, it was an old shape BMW 3 Series, as you can see the number there, MJD 522X. That was stolen on the 23rd of November. It wasn't recovered for 3 days.
That's right. We'd like to know where that car was in the meantime. In between the time of the theft and the recovery, shortly after the robbery, it had some offside damage caused. We'd like to know how that damage was caused.
You don't know if it was struck by another car or whether it was in impact with a
We've no
a
idea
building or
how it
something.
was caused. If anyone can help us with that, we'd like to hear from
And
them.
the area, probably West London or down the M4 towards Reading?
Quite possibly.
OK. You've brought some water filters with you. These are NSA water filters, the sort of things that normally sold in people's homes, and there might be thousands of people who've had these offered to them, but 7 of these are missing from the boot of the car.
They went from the boot of the car. If anyone can help us with those and any association with men of the description that's been given, we'd like to hear from them.
Only if you can link them with some other clue, otherwise we'll get thousands of calls, please. And we've got one other description of one other man.
We have. There was a man that went into the post office 2 days before trying to sell some stolen child benefit vouchers. He was aged in his late teens, early 20s. If anyone can help us with identifying that man, we'd like to hear from them.
And you're not really interested in prosecuting him for the vouchers, provided you can eliminate him?
We'd like him to come forward and so that we can eliminate him.
The number here in the studio, 081 811 8181. Or you can call Reading Police Station direct on 0734 599915. That's 0734, the code for Reading, 599915. Succession of crimes which are so mindless that not even hardened members of the underworld have any sympathy for the villains. Once again, in our next reconstruction, anyone who sees what happened, including the culprit's relatives, acquaintances or friends, will want to help make sure these men are caught. The events took place 10 weeks ago in Doncaster, early on the morning of Thursday, December the 3rd.
Hello. Sorry to trouble you, love, but do you think I could use your phone? Only mine's out of order.
Yeah, of course you can.
Oh, you are a love. Dear, yours is dead as well.
Sierra 4 to Sheffield Control. Can I have a radio check, please?
Receiving loud and clear, over.
10-4, over and out.
Meanwhile, as the van set off for Doncaster, a motorist in Cantley was surprised to see men waiting by the roadside.
Those buggers are up to no good.
I noticed that the driver, in fact, turned away and covered his face with his hands, which again I thought was very suspicious.
I said get down! Open the door!
I said open the door! Open the door!
After I was shot, there wasn't an awful lot to think about, other than, you know, how fast the blood was pouring out.
I stopped to let the car go past, but as it was coming quite slowly, I realised I could cross the street in front of it. I turned back and saw that the car had stopped. A man jumped out of the back door with a ponytail. I thought this was a strange place for someone to be dropped off.
He was stocky, a bit of a beer belly on him. He was wearing a blue boiler suit and he was heavy-footed and he didn't run away very fast. It was more of like a jog.
Nor did he run far. He joined his partner in a white Montego.
I was waiting at the bus stop in Ellis Road. A white Montego flew past me, going at a crazy speed. I thought this was rather insane driving. And then looked towards Bawtry Road and couldn't understand why he had mounted the pavement.
Were you in that queue? Do you remember this? Then, by a coincidence, the woman in Bellevue who first noticed that the phones were cut was a witness to the fate of the Montego. The robbers probably ran to vehicles they'd parked nearby. A housewife saw a white Sherpa pickup, followed by a dark, maybe green hatchback car. From Bellevue, they had easy access to the motorways. From here, they could run to anywhere in Britain.
There are occasions after an injury such as this where the limb is salvageable. In this particular case, you can see from these lead pellets around the knee joint that the injury to the soft tissue was so catastrophic, leaving him in effect with a foot that had no blood supply, no nerve supply, no feeling, and a foot with no effective muscle to move it. And in this particular case, we were left with no option but to amputate.
There's only one kind of emotion that passes through your head, and that is the one that you will be incomplete. You won't be what you were before. But it's a very odd thing to look at, to see yourself with this odd-looking thing strapped onto you. I wouldn't know these people at all if I ever saw them again. And from the point of view of preventing someone else being hurt, these people need to be caught before some unfortunate person becomes hurt worse than I am.
And John, hope that is your fear, that somebody else is going to get hurt.
It is indeed. I'm very concerned that this gang will strike again, because I know for a fact that they've been responsible for a number of robberies across the Doncaster area. I'd like to say, Nick, that this was no accident. This was a deliberate shooting at both the guard on the floor and at the driver of the van. And I'm certain that there's someone out there who knows who is responsible. And I urge them to come forward before someone else is seriously injured or even worse.
Now, you think that this group is based, if not locally, somewhere at least in the north of England? I mean, they're not travelling down from Scotland or in from Wales. It's...
I tend to feel that they're based in the northern part of England.
Now, what those cars that were stolen, December the 1st, I think. They must have been kept somewhere till the 3rd of December.
That's right. They were hidden, obviously, for 2 days. They were brought back out to carry out this job, not having been changed in any way. So I'm particularly interested in where those 2 cars were during those 2 days.
OK, this video fit that we've got here of one of the chaps, he was seen by the Red Rover.
Yes, he was. He's described as about 25 to 35 years of age, 5'7" to 5'9", with dark hair which was receding. He had an oval face and is believed to be medium build.
There is, I should say, a thumping great reward for this because of all the cases. When you put it together, it amounts now to £40,000. If you can help, please do call 081 811 8181. Someone's life may depend on it. Or you can call the Doncaster Robbery Incident Room. That's on 0742 570 800.
In fact, there's no doubt it would have been. Only the victim's knowledge of first aid techniques and extraordinary presence of mind saved her life. So irrational was the attack that police have asked us to protect the identity of everyone involved. The real witnesses appear in our film. We only hear their voices. The witnesses don't appear, we just hear their voices. We don't use the victim's real name, and she only appears in silhouette. Finally, the routine you'll see for collecting takings has been entirely changed since the attempted robbery we're about to see took place. The reconstruction begins on Monday the 23rd of March at Kirkstall in Leeds. The Kirkstall Lights pub is the head office of a chain of 4 pubs in the West Yorkshire area. Marion had been the company's secretary for the past 3 years.
Right then, let's be off.
It's Monday. Dave was to spend the morning visiting the other 3 pubs and collecting some of the takings. And for the first time, Marion was going with him.
Another thing is, there's about...
Dave thought it more beneficial if I could come along. He could do the monies and I could do the paperwork. By going out, I get an insight into exactly what the directors are doing and what's happening. I was looking forward to going out on the day.
Their last port of call was to be the Travellers' Rest in the Crossgates area of Leeds. And during the morning, various witnesses noticed 2 men hanging about near the pub. At about midday, this secretary noticed a police car arriving on a routine call.
As soon as they saw the police car, then they moved across the road, so obviously that he wouldn't see them, you know, so they looked a bit suspicious then.
Around that time, Dave and Marion were 17 miles away at their first stop in Bradford. While Marion checked through the paperwork, Dave collected up the takings. A few minutes later, they were on their way to the next pub at Hawksworth, another 9 miles on. Back at the Travellers' Rest, another witness saw the 2 men about 100 yards from where they'd been seen 15 minutes earlier.
It surprised me why they were stood there, because there's no bus stops, there's no taxi rank, there's no shop. So definitely up to no good.
Dave and Marion were finished at Hawksworth by about 1 o'clock.
We were at Hawksworth just long enough to collect the monies. We then moved on to the Leeds City Centre Bank, where Dave then banked the monies.
Half an hour later, having deposited all the cash, they arrived at the Travellers' Rest.
Come on, I'm starving.
Me too. Are we going to have lunch first?
You bet. We'll leave the paperwork till later.
Okay. I don't know what I want to eat.
About 20 minutes after that, 500 yards away from the Travellers' Rest, another witness was startled by 2 men sprinting past him and driving off at breakneck speed in a silver Vauxhall Cavalier. They turned off left in the direction of the Travellers' Rest.
Thanks.
We're just about to shut the food counter. Would you like anything else?
Not for me, thanks.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
The Cavalier was next seen parked opposite Dave's BMW in the pub car park. It's now about 3 o'clock.
We'll go straight home.
Look at him there.
Although he was laughing, the man appeared to be alone.
No, he's got to laugh about.
It was 3:10 when Dave and Marion were ready to leave.
Bloody close.
I thought at that point, that it was some of the lads just having a joke with me, because that's the way that the company is. We are a sort of a friendly company.
Get off!
I then found myself looking down the barrel of a gun. The gun was 2 foot away from my face. At this point I realised it wasn't what I suspected in the first place.
Give me the money!
I gave the man the bag. The bag was out of my hand, and then the man shot me. It was very calculated, and I felt he knew exactly what he was doing.
Marion was shot in the neck at point-blank range.
Call an ambulance! Now!
I realised at this point that I had to get down onto the floor on all fours, get rid of the blood out of the airways, and come back again, just to keep conscious.
Yeah, it's Traveller's Rest at Cross Gates. We need an ambulance, quick. Yeah, I think someone's been shot in the car park.
Moments later, the Cavalier was seen speeding down Bryan Crescent nearby, closely followed by a silver Ford Orion.
The attacker who shot me, I really would like to ask the man, face to face, why he would want to shoot me. I have nothing against anyone at all, especially when I gave him the bag. I can't understand why he would want to shoot me. I have 2 daughters, I have a husband, and I have family. He could have robbed a lot of people of one person.
Well, John Chambers, Marion was very lucky to survive that shot.
Well, it was more than lucky. It was practically a miracle, because the bullet went straight through her neck, and it missed a jugular vein and a spinal column by fractions of an inch.
And she still hasn't fully recovered, has she?
No, she still hasn't fully recovered. I anticipate she will recover physically, but it'll take a while for her to recover mentally.
Now, we saw at the end of the film the attackers driving off in the Silver Cavalier, followed by a Silver Orion. You're sure that Orion was involved in the incident?
Yes, we believe that the Orion was also used by the attackers. It's a Silver Orion. It's a 1.6 gear injection. We're keen to trace that vehicle. The Cavalier was abandoned 6/10 of a mile away, in Sandway, near to the junction with the York Road. We believe they transferred to the Orion, and would like to hear from anyone who might have seen them.
And another positive thing, you do have very good descriptions of the suspects.
Yes, we do. The first man is about 25 years of age. He's 5 foot 8 inches tall with a stocky build. He has short blonde hair. He was wearing a brown stone-washed jacket and blue jeans. The second man, again 25 years of age, with a heavy build. He has dark brown hair and a very distinctive bushy moustache. He's described as wearing a tan leather bomber jacket and dark trousers.
What about the third man, the man who seemed to be laughing to himself, sitting in the Cavalier in the Traveller's Rest car park?
Well, we have an artist's impression of him. He's described as being in his late 20s. He's got a thin face, a small chin, and his hair is described as mousy, short and neatly cut.
Do you know which of the men fired the gun?
No, we don't, because the gunman was wearing a ski mask similar to this.
Right, and that's
Note it's got distinctive red stitching or red piping around the face.
It is very hard to understand why the man shot Marion, even though he'd taken the money. What sort of person do you think you're dealing with?
Well, He's obviously a very dangerous man indeed. As the film has shown, she handed over the bag, she did exactly as he required, and he quite calmly, quite deliberately shot her in the face. This man is clearly very violent, he's very, very irrational, he must be caught, because the next victim might not be so lucky.
Right, it's very important that you do ring if you can help us at all with that then. Detective Inspector Chambers and his colleagues are waiting here for your call, and this is the number here, of course, 081 811 8181, or you can call Millgarth Police Station in Leeds direct, and that's 0532 413 022.
The case tonight is a daylight robbery in which the bandits were armed with pistols, a shotgun and a lollipop. But it was no joke. A large gang was involved, perhaps half a dozen men, and the getaway through city streets was almost as violent as the robbery itself. Detectives on the case, some of whom are here tonight, hope that other villains will help identify the gang. The robbery was on a Tuesday, exactly 1 calendar month ago, Tuesday the 18th of November. But our reconstruction begins 1 month before that. It's in the Hyde area of Manchester. Tuesday, October the 21st, Hyde Town Hall. The public corridor there overlooks the Royal Bank of Scotland in Corporation Street. A witness vividly remembers 2 men loitering there. It's about 10:45 in the morning. Four weeks later, Tuesday the 18th of November. Detectives have pieced together 3 events that morning, each of which was very slightly unusual. This was 11:25 in Corporation Street, a couple of hundred yards down from the bank. This was a few minutes later in Water Street, where there's another entrance to the town hall. And finally, about a mile away, here in Raglan Street, between 10:40 and 11:40, at least 5 witnesses saw a motorcyclist. He seemed to be keeping an eye on 2 cars. It's 11:30. The total delivery was over £200,000. The coins went in first. The boxes of notes contain £25,000 each. This man, Stephen Campbell, who's a builder, tried to keep up with the van to get the registration number. What seemed to be a gun brandished at him slowed Mr. Campbell down, and another lorry found itself unwittingly involved. But the gang was prepared to prevent anyone following them. Adamson's industrial estate. At the back of the yard, there's a bridge over the canal and a way out to Raglan Street, but it's only wide enough for one vehicle.
Move it! Move your lorry! Move it! Come on, get out! Move it! Move your... Back! Move it! Get out! Back! Whoa!
Is Hyde in Manchester. Tuesday the 18th of November, 11:30 in the morning, the Royal Bank of Scotland is on the corner of Corporation Street and Market Street. The getaway was down Corporation Street towards Great Norbury Street, away from the town centre, left into Great Norbury Street, right into Croft Street, through Adamson's yard, that's where they abandoned the van in the industrial estate, ran onto Raglan Street, picked up the getaway cars and made off there. Now, John Richardson, they were a pretty ruthless bunch of people. I gather one of the guards at least was quite badly hurt.
Yes, in fact, two guards were quite badly hurt. One of them had to receive hospital treatment and is still not returned to work.
Now, we've got some descriptions. We saw a fairly good close-up, in fact, of the reconstruction of one of them, which is a good indication you've got a good description. What was he like, the Lollipop man?
Yes, the Lollipop man. Well, he's described as between 28 and 35 years of age. He's slim, and he was had a moustache.
Now, he looked fairly similar to a guy seen a month earlier in the town hall, looking as they were sussing out the bank.
That's correct, yes. We feel that this particular man may in fact be the man that took the part of the Lollipop man on the raid.
Now, here we see them side by side, and through the magic of video fits, we can change them so that we can put the disguise on the left onto the one on the right, and there are obvious similarities. Always dangerous to draw too many conclusions from that, though. Here in front of us is the Lollipop that I'm sure Lollipop people must hate these being called lollipops. Where did they get this from?
Well, we don't know. We've not found the owner of it.
Right, so if anybody knows where this comes from, I gather it's 5 years old or so, at least.
Correct. Well, it's said that...
it's an old type.
That's correct, because the modern ones have a plastic pole.
Right, now all these are bits and pieces that were found. These were the glasses he was wearing.
Those were the glasses worn by the Lollipop man and were subsequently found in the getaway red transit van.
Where were these found, the balaclavas and these plastic gloves?
These were found in Throttlebank Street in Hyde, about half a mile away from where the robbery occurred.
Right. Perhaps the most important clue, two of these were stolen. These are the Securicor cash boxes. £25,000 in each one,
That's correct, yes. That's a replica of the two that were actually stolen during the raid.
Difficult to get rid of these things?
Yes, and I would appeal for anyone that may have found one of these to come forward.
Right. These are quite reckless and dangerous people. There's been another robbery this week, in fact. Somebody was hurt in that. Clearly somebody else is going to get hurt if they're not stopped. If you can help in any way, there is a substantial reward. There really is, £10,000 if these people are caught. Here is the number, 01811 8055, or you can call the Manchester Police Direct on 061 330 8321. Crimewatch is often asked to refresh cases other methods haven't reached, and that means the crimes we're asked to cover sometimes fairly old ones. But it's extraordinary how good viewers' recollections turn out to be. Our next film is about a robbery that took place 6 months ago, the Saturday before Christmas. But the sequence of events goes back further still, to last July, in Brown Hills near Walsall in the West Midlands. This car thief, who got the key posing as a potential customer, is known to the police, but won't say who he passed the car to. It turned up 5 months later, 100 miles away, at Morrisons supermarket in Halifax, West Yorkshire.
We always shop at Morrison on Keighley Road every Friday. We fill up with petrol after we've done our shopping, because the petrol station is in the back of Morrison.
This is Friday, the 18th of December at 5 p.m.
I'm just looking bored and I saw this white coloured car standing there and had the bonnet open and a man was working in it and he kept looking to the security van all the time, and that was a bit suspicious. And what stuck in my mind was that mattress in the back of the car. I thought it's a bit funny, a mattress like that.
No, you'll be lucky.
A few minutes later, about 5:05, this woman and her son were on their way to the supermarket.
I always shop at Morrisons. I usually go 2 or 3 times a week, and my son nearly always comes with me. He likes to come shopping, comes for the outing. I park my car in a fairly quiet part of the car park, a place I don't usually park. I pulled up at the side of a white car, and as I turned to get out of the car, I was startled when I realised there was a young man in the car at the side of me in the passenger seat. As I got out of my car, I noticed he put his left hand up to shield the side of his face, so I couldn't see his face, which I thought was rather odd, and made me notice him all the more. He may have been around 30-ish, quite sort of medium brown hair, nicely cut. I was only in the supermarket maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Outside, Securicor had arrived at the back entrance, while at the front...
As I came out with my son, I noticed the white Fiesta had moved into another parking spot, but this time there were 2 men sat in the front. I felt sure they were up to something. I thought perhaps they were out to steal a car out of the car park. It's pure supposition, but my feeling would be that they were probably going to do it that day and were stopped for some reason. Some armed robberies are opportunist armed robberies, and they are decided upon that morning when thieves get out of bed and have no money, put a gun in a car and go out and do a robbery, and I'm afraid it's as simple as that sometimes.
Control from Tango 37. We've just left the centre of Halifax and we'll be at Morrisons in 5 minutes. Over.
Saturday the 19th December at 5:15 p.m.
And I was just shopping on my own. I saw this man. I thought he looked suspicious because he didn't have any shopping. He was about 30, about 5'8", pale complexion.
Give me the box!
Help! Securicor driver requires assistance.
I've got a tax.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's got a gun.
A schoolboy saw the white Fiesta heading towards Cousin Lane. A police helicopter was overhead in moments, but the car escaped unseen until it got to Ramsden Wood.
Hello, am I through to the police? Yes, I don't know if you're interested, but I've just seen a white car driving very quickly towards the reservoir at Jib Lane.
The following morning, we brought the car out of the reservoir, and we would never have known to have come here if we hadn't had that phone call.
Detective Chief Inspector Lynn Toland's with us now, and that car, presumably, that you recovered from the reservoir is your best clue.
Yes, it is. We know that the person who stole the car didn't do the armed robbery because at the time of the armed robbery he was actually in prison. We don't know much about what happened to the car after that, but we do know that exactly 1 week before Christmas, on the 18th of December, that car was outside Morrisons supermarket in Halifax, and that the following day that car was present when the armed robbery was done.
So it was probably stored overnight somewhere in the Halifax area
It
that
could
night.
have been anywhere in the West Yorkshire area, but we don't think it was too far away from
With a
there.
mattress in the back. I mean, a pretty prominent thing
Yes,
to see a white Fiesta XR2 the week before Christmas. The registration plate that they'd put on, E768GFV, somebody made up those, and obviously like the garage that made those up to...
We would if they can remember making those up, yes. There's no name at all on them.
These are other things that were recovered by the car. These bolt cutters presumably used to get into towards the reservoir, the sledgehammer.
Yes.
More to the point, tell us about this comic book, the Robo Machine featuring the GoBots Annual 1986.
Well, this was found in the boot of the car, and it's got some children scribbling on it there. And we think it's possible that somebody could have got into the car with some children quite innocently and might remember this book belonging to them.
Right. That canister they took the money in, a security canister, of course, contains this sort of explosive red dye thing, and that went absolutely everywhere in the car, even when it was recovered from the water.
Yes,
it was just red everywhere.
Yes.
Now, presumably the men would have been covered in that as well.
I think they would have been absolutely covered in it, and particularly on their hands and in the fingernails.
They tried using the mattress, but presumably the purpose of that was to absorb the dye, but it simply didn't work. So anybody who saw someone the week before Christmas coming all covered in red, the notes would presumably have been ruined, the money covered in red as well.
Yes.
There's quite a reward on this.
Yes, there is.
And it was a pretty nasty offence.
It was, and I'm quite sure that some loved one will know that her husband or boyfriend came home covered in dye, and I'd ask them to ring the police now.
Being criticised for frightening people, though Crimewatch itself is generally regarded as an honourable exception. We take pains to acknowledge that appeals do give an impression that violent crime is more common than it is. Nonetheless, some crime is frightening, and it's often just the sort that deserves a public appeal for clues. Our next case is one of those. In fact, it's the only case we've come across in 10 years in which two men were so irresponsible they held up hundreds of people at gunpoint, many of them children. On Thursday, 4 weeks ago today, this car was stolen from the car park at Sandwell and Dudley Station. Did you see it? Do you know who took it or kept it overnight?
So I'm going to take the rest of my holidays next week and the week after.
Lucky devil.
Well, I didn't want to, but it's either that or I'm going to lose it.
Oh, my heart's bleeding.
I'm sure you'll cope for the next 2 weeks.
Richard and I both started with Securicor at Preston in about 1987, so we've known each other on and off for about 7 years.
What are you going to do next?
If I go and wait in the queue now, you can get some ice cream for Ola. I'll see you in the queue. I was standing in the queue when I saw a guy who had no shopping with him, he had no trolley. He appeared to be looking in the direction of the till and the cash office door. He saw me looking at him. He appeared to become agitated. He then turned and walked away.
Today. God, I forgot how busy it gets this time of year. Oh, and you got your teacher training. How's it going? It's exam time. I hate them. I used to like maths, you know.
It's poetic justice. If you're going to terrify those wee kids with exams when you're qualified, it serves you right.
Thanks.
Now, I've been in the business about 7 years now without having suffered an attack. But it is in your mind, because you know that they don't give you a crash helmet and an armoured vehicle for nothing.
Early evening, 6 hours since the thin-faced man with the moustache was seen at Morrisons. In the cash office, they were getting ready for Securicor.
For once, we're early.
Makes a change.
At 6:35 p.m, were you in Morrisons car park?
So, you're going to be taking your boat on holiday then?
No, it's a bit early in the year.
Why don't you keep your boat up in the marina there? You might be able to buy one of those nice bijou flats.
I don't think so. It's a bit out of my league.
Did you see two men hanging round the car park?
Like Richard in the van, you probably assumed they were Morrisons staff.
Hello, are we all set?
We're all ready. CID.
So, all right, are we?
Oh, fine. Busy.
Yeah?
Get on the floor! Get on the floor now! Give me the money or he gets it! Come on! Get back! Go away! Get back!
He was a white man, about 5'8".
Get back!
When he spoke, he seemed to have a northern accent. He was wearing a balaclava. I was very scared.
Come on! Faster! Faster! Come on! Come on! Faster!
Get out! There's nobody gone! Get out!
The shot sent a shower of plasterwork into Tim's face.
Get out! There's a man
Give us the money! Come on! Faster!
There's no more! You've got it all!
Will someone please come and I heard people shouting for help over the tannoy. I looked out of the window and I saw two men. They had guns and one of the men actually took his balaclava off. He had dark, short hair receding on the top.
Please, this is Morrisons Preston Riversway. There's been an armed robbery.
They've got guns. Please come quickly.
Saw the two men. They got in a red Escort and there was already a driver waiting for them. They then drove quickly out of the car park, behind the petrol station and on the main road towards McDonald's.
You all right?
You come into this business and you have to expect this kind of thing to happen. You'd be living in a dream world if you didn't. Try to be cool about it, but at the time, it was still a frightening experience.
I felt very, very frightened, very shaky and very upset and not sleeping very well. Can't get to sleep at night or waking up early in the morning still thinking of it.
What sort of car was it?
It was a red Escort, bright red Escort.
Don't worry.
It's the worst experience that has ever happened to me. And that particular night, I was absolutely petrified. Because I honestly thought he was going to come in and kill us. I still can't get it out of my mind.
The red Escort registration number Hotel 701, Foxtrot Hotel Alpha, confirmed stolen from the Sandwell and Dudley Railway Station car park in the West Midlands yesterday.
Did you see the car being abandoned a few hundred yards from Morrisons, outside Texas Home Care?
David Eves, pointing guns at children, at people shopping, it's more what you would expect from terrorism than from an ordinary crime.
Well, armed robbery is not all that common, but in this case, they've got sawn-off shotguns, they were firing the shotguns into the wall, threatening women and children. It's a very nasty job.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
No, I haven't.
Do you think there's a possibility if anybody in the store had made a wrong move, the guy would have discharged the gun at them? I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looks as though he might.
Both men were very agitated, and I've no doubt if they'd been approached, they would certainly have shot someone.
OK, so your best bet, presumably, is that there's going to be somebody in the underworld, somebody who knows who did this, and frankly, they're not going to stomach this sort of behaviour.
Somebody out there knows who's done this, and Securicor have put up a substantial reward for information leading to a conviction for this job.
How can other people help? I mean, obviously, there were a lot of appeals within the body of that film. What happened at the end? I mean, they dumped the car a couple of hundred yards away from Morrisons. What did they do then? Do you know?
They ran across Riversway at Preston. Now, they either got into another vehicle or what have you. If anybody saw them running or saw them getting into another vehicle, then obviously we'd like to speak to them. Speak to them.
OK, and obviously you want to know about that car, H701FHA, not where it is now, but that was stolen on the 17th and then used on the robbery on Friday the 18th, so somewhere that was kept overnight.
Somebody may have seen it being taken from the Dudley Railway Station, or for the 24 hours it's been missing prior to the robbery. We'd like to know where it was, and if anybody could help us, then we'd be glad to speak to them.
Perhaps the most important clue Who knows? It was this chap, fairly thin face with a moustache, who was seen in Morrisons at lunchtime.
He was seen, he wasn't shopping, he was certainly watching the cash office. So he needs to be eliminated from our inquiries, so we need to trace him.
But he might not have been one of the robbers?
We don't know at this stage, it's just somebody that was acting suspiciously and we need to speak to him.
OK, well, his description, there he is. He's about 5'10", and his hair, as you can see, is dark, but it's going grey, and he's fairly average build, I think. If you can help in any way with this case, here's the number. It's a free call number in the studio, 0500 600 600. Or you can ring Preston Police Station direct. That's 0772 617 771.